Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another week of TGP2 action. It is Wednesday night, so it is TGP2, and tonight we are going to be racing around Silverstone and then Hungary a little bit later on. At the moment, you can see we've got Owen May Quimby on pole here in the wet at Silverstone, and we believe we've also got a wet race on the way as well. So Cameron Babbo is back tonight. He was away last week, and Wet Lemons could have took advantage in both races, but only took advantage in one of them after that dramatic spin in Austria. So Wet Lemons on 170 points. Camo Babbo is 28 behind on 142. That is how it's looking at the minute in the battle for the championship. And we'll see what twists and turns we see tonight at Silverstone. Wet Lemons usually does so well in wet conditions, of course. Won this race in the wet last season. Is currently at the moment only in 5th place, but he is on a lap right now. Alongside me in the commentary box is Roy.
Good evening, Daniel. Yeah, looking forward to this one. So, wet quali, wet race. Wet Lemons is currently flying out here. He's 6/10ths up on his previous sector. I believe the first two sectors have been purple for the Ferrari driver. And he makes his way now down to the Vale chicane. Quite difficult to get right. It's not easy to judge the speed you take through here. Take as much as possible, use as much of the track as you possibly can. Don't take too much of that inside curb. And Wet Lemons across the line, and that's a good bit quicker than his previous lap and also everyone else's laps. So
absolutely annihilating the opposition there. He expected it. He is good in the wet, and Cena goes into second place, so half a second behind Wet Lemons. A good lap by Cena. But you've got Cameron Babbo, championship contender, in 5th place. He's currently on a lap right now, slightly down in the first sector. But, well, this is the thing, isn't it? If we have wet races, Wet Lemons tends to do well, and it could well help him to extend his championship lead at the end of this race in Silverstone today.
Camo Babbo then through the Copse corner, a scene of many a drama in Formula 1, and in the wet, quite a challenge. Not so much in the dry with modern Formula 1 cars, but in the wet it is certainly quite a challenge. So at the end of the second sector, how is his lap looking? He is 2/10ths up on his previous best. He could slot himself into the top 3. Wet Lemons has had enough. He has clearly felt that. Actually, he may have crashed because there's a Ferrari off at what's that called?
Don't know. Yeah, I think he did crash. I think he lost it on the exit. Yeah.
Cena's out as well in a more peculiar position, but Chris Johnson is in P4 actually, so great quality from him. But Camo Babbo crosses the line and it's P3, demoting Chris Johnson to 5th.
Look how close he was to Cena as well, 3 thousandths away from Cena's time, so it's not going to be a front row of the top 2 in the championship then. Camo Babbo will have to settle for at least 3rd place. Got a minute left in the session. We're going to have the final laps starting to come through for everybody in just a minute. And everybody is on the inters upside from Stereogram and Angel versus Death. I think the drivers figured out that actually it was better to go on the inters. Here's Chris Johnson around the final corner. Is he going to improve? No, he's 3,000 slower than his previous quickest lap time. But he can go for one more lap and see if he can get any further higher up the grid. Theo Hickman's just gone 1.1 seconds faster than his current quickest lap in the first sector. We know he struggles with the wet conditions, and we'll see if he can at least get himself into the top 10.
Yeah, Theo Hickman then, bit of a mixed bag when it comes to wet conditions. I think wet quali, he can just about string a lap together, but when it comes to wet races, we haven't seen Theo at his best. And I think Baza is quite close to completing a lap. He's 3 seconds up on his previous time, but of course the benchmark he set, I believe, was on wet tyres. So Baza from 13th, round the final corner. He's invalidated at the final corner. He improved by 4.3 seconds, which would have been enough for, I believe that was enough for 7th.
Yeah.
Theo then is 3.2 seconds up on his time. We've got
Camo Babbo coming around the final couple of corners as well. He's gone for one more lap, and he was purple second sector. I think he might get, well, he's going to get ahead of Cena here. Will it be enough for Wet Lemons to take pole? No, it will not. He's just off by less than a 10th, though. I think he'll be pleased with that in the end, and he starts in 2nd place for this race. But we still got Owen flying through. Theo does go into 3rd place, 4.5 second improvement for Theo Hickman. But what can Owen do, I wonder, towards the end?
Chris Johnson has invalidated his lap, so we're not going to see any improvements from him. He has retired from the session. Hopefully his car will peel off into the pits. So Mayor Quenby then around the I forgot the name of the corner now. Stowe corner. So through the Vale chicane comes Mayor Quenby in his Mercedes. The Aston Martin is nicely out of the way, and around the final corner, round club he comes, and Mayor Quenby stays in fifth. He lost a second apparently in that final sector. Wheelnut is on a lap, and he's 2.2 seconds up on his previous time. It's not going to be enough to challenge for pole unless he finds amounts of time in the final sector, which he may do actually, because his previous time would presumably have been on wet. So Wheelnut across the line, P9. Maybe slightly underwhelming.
Lap, I suppose, but yeah, it's interesting how well he's doing in the championship. Ultimately quite underwhelming. He is 52 points back from Wet Lemons in the lead. Wheelnut in third place in the championship. He's the closest sort of outside challenger, I suppose you could say, as we see the grid positions there, and we see also a 5th-place penalty for indecisive Mackie.
So Wet Lemons then is on pole position in the wet conditions with main championship rival Camobabo in P2. Theo Hickman strung together a strong qualifying in the wet to finish in third, with Cena in P4. Mayor Quenby is fifth, followed by Chris Johnson, which is 6 places higher than Chris is normally used to starting these days. Blair Grills is seventh. Sayer Sports is up in eighth for Haas. Daniel P. Wheelnut is ninth, with Mick Schumacher rounding at the top 10. Mackie will start 16th with that penalty. Then we have M. Shep, Baza down in what will be 12th in the race. Red Bull Kim, Angel vs Death, Stereogram, Parsa, who crashed out in the session, Kaya, and the other drivers who complete the grid. Mr. John, yes. So it was quite a dramatic race last season. Was it last season that Alex Zafro won?
No, I think Wet Lemons win this one last season.
No, he spun at the chicane on the last lap.
Oh,
he was dominating the race, and then Alex Zafro came through on the inters. I believe that was last season. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
but
I think it was. I mean, we have had quite a lot of wet races in TGP2 at Silverstone, which I suppose is no great surprise. But yeah, we're going to add another one to the collection right now. That was Lemon's 4th pole of the season, by the way. So he's got the record now for the most poles so far this season.
Hopefully Theo will have a better start than he did last season.
I do remember that.
That was quite the eventful, race start. But hopefully we'll have a smoother opening to this race as the lights start to illuminate on the gantry. We are away in Silverstone, and it looks like a fairly good start there from Wet Lemon. Cena is already up into second, so Cena has flown off the line, and the AlphaTauri driver finds himself in P2 already. Theo Hickman, much better start this season, and Cena is going for the lead down into turn number 3, and there's a spin at the back for Mayor Quenby. And an Alpine of Camobabo. So disaster for Camobabo on this opening lap. Wet Lemons retakes the lead from Cena, but Cena's not going to give this one up. Cena has the tow, he has the slipstream, and he has the inside line. Does he? Oh, they make contact. Hopefully there's no damage there to the front wing of Wet Lemons, but Cena takes the lead. Theo Hickman is all over the back of this battle, and Chris Johnson is up in P4. Normally Chris Johnson makes his way up during the race, but he's already 4th, and Theo Hickman side by side with Wet Lemons, and actually Theo Hickman is now ahead of Wet Lemons. So Cena leads this race then. The move may be reviewed later on, but Theo, he's surely not going to have a go into Maggots and Beckett's now. He thinks better of it. He wasn't far ahead enough. So Cena leads the race.
What an incredible opening lap. I think Wet Lemons has played safe. Cena's gone a bit wide, and is Theo going to take the lead? He is going to take the lead. Well, so much for him not doing well in the wet. He leads right now, but is Cena going to come back at him now as they go down into Stowe? Will he be just as light on the brakes as Hickman was earlier on in the lap? No, he will not. So Hickman continues to lead then, and Camobabo, was caught in an instant with Owen. I don't know if they absolutely collided, but I just think there was just a general collisions going on throughout the field at the tight turn 2 there, and that is what it resulted in. Camobabo down in 14th position.
I wonder if Wet Lemons has damage here, because he's not usually kind of this far off. The top 2 are pulling away from him, and these are normally the conditions where Wet Lemons thrives. Daniel P. Wheelnut has made an impressive start. He's now up into the top 5, and Chris Johnson is putting all sorts of pressure on Wet Lemons. Theo Hickman now has a 1-second lead over Cena, so Theo may have been putting in some wet weather practice in the off season, because He's doing rather well out in front. I think Cena's using up a bit of deployment here. Actually, no, he's not. Cena has over 90% deployment in this race, so Cena has a lot of raw pace out there. So watch out for him later on in the race. This could get juicy up in front. But Wet Lemons then losing a bit of time through this corner here. I think he may have damage, although he did get a better exit. So we'll have to see as Shep picks up our first penalty of the race.
Well, this is not the order we were expecting on lap 2 of this race. It is all to play for right now. Does Wet Lemons have damage? You're going through Cops there, and he has actually gained slightly on Cena, so maybe he's taking it a bit easy perhaps. Although he is letting the top 2 pull away quite a bit as Mick Schumacher passes Bazza. I think that was that Cops there, and gets up into 10th place. Wet Lemons then is actually going to come under pressure now from Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson is using a ZRS, so is Wet Lemons, but Chris Johnson will get a bit of slipstream as well, but I think the corner will arrive first, and Wet Lemons will stay ahead for the time being. So everybody's on intermediate tyres. I don't think there's going to be a need for any pit stops in this race, unless, of course, the weather gets worse or it begins to dry up. So it's just a nightmare, really, isn't it, for Camababo? Down in 13th, he's going to have to work his way back through the field.
Fastest lap of the race for Theo then, so he is pulling out quite the gap. And just as you were talking about tyre strategy, I got the informative graphic from AWS, and they told us that the drivers will either pit or they won't. So that's great from Amazon. Thank you very much for the insight. But a bit of contact there between Wheelnut and Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson a bit slow on the apex, or perhaps Wheelnut a bit late on the brakes.
Blair Grills has lost it.
Blair Grills spins.
He's going to lose a load of positions. There's going to be a few spinners in this race, and Blair Grills is one of them there just before that DRS detection, which of course is irrelevant in this race because of the weather. And Blair Grills down in 14th now. Does elevate Camababo up to 11th though, another position gain for him.
Yeah, and I was wondering if he was going to be overtaken by Stereogram, but he just about had enough momentum to keep the car going. And Parsa is down in 16th. I don't know if he had any incidents. I know he started at the back of the grid, but he still finds himself down in 16th. So maybe the wet conditions are not really to his liking. And we still have... Stereogram gets a bit loose through Woodcote Corner, and Parsa is now up into P15. And
Wet Lemons again. Terrible through Chapel. And this is perfect for Chris Johnson to just go down the hanger straight, and now he will get past Wet Lemons. He goes into 3rd place, so Wet Lemons in the wet of Silverstone is struggling. He's in 4th place, and look at that top 3.
The top 3 of Theo, Cena and Chris Johnson. Now Chris Johnson running in P3 on lap 3, and Wheelnut looking to have a go on Wet Lemons. Now was Wet Lemons, was he understeering through Maggots and Beckett's, or was it oversteer?
I don't know, to be honest. It looked like possibly a bit of understeer, I have to say, for the second lap in a row, but he doesn't seem to be having too much understeer anywhere else. I think he's just not getting a good line through there for whatever reason. He's closing back up there to Chris Johnson a little bit in this first sector so far, but he's down in 4th place. But of course, it's not end of the world stuff for Wet Lemons, of course, because Camababo is way down in 10th.
Yeah, so Wet Lemons is still looking pretty good from a championship perspective, but yeah, it's a curious lack of pace we're seeing from the Ferrari driver, as Wheelnut is now all over the back of him, and Shep is having quite the drive out here. He's currently running in P6, does have that 3-second penalty, unfortunately. Mark Quenby has dropped to 8th. Now, he's battling with Sayer Sports. Now, did Joe make a move up the inside?
Well, no, Joe went off the track, and then Owen tried to get through, but then he got back ahead. But look at Shep and Wheelnut here. They're going to be side by side going into Cops. Be careful, Alpha Tauri Mercedes. Oh, and Shep comes out on top there, but there was definitely a bit of contact. And thankfully, though, no damage and no 50G accidents.
Yeah, thankfully not.
Accidents.
And Mark Quenby picks up a 3-second penalty. I think Maggots and Beckett's will be pretty tough to keep it within the lines in these conditions. And will Wheelnut have a go on Shep for P5? He's not going to be close enough heading into Stowe this time around. And I have to say, it's looking fairly even up at the front, and it's also this battling behind has given Wet Lemons a bit of breathing space, but he's still only a second clear as Wheelnut.
Owen went for a bit of a dive bomb, bit of a send at the final chicane on Wheelnut, and it didn't work, and he is down to 10th place, and Camababo now up to 9th.
I have to say, I wasn't expecting that one. I was riding on board with Wheelnut. I didn't actually expect another Mercedes to just appear on the screen, and Camababo with the fastest lap, so he's got a lot of pace in that Alpine, but that incident on lap 1, whatever it was, it's left him down in P9, and he's got Mick Schumacher up ahead of him. Mr. John now moves his way up into...
getting a bit shaky and lost the position there to Mr. John, but he managed to save it. He didn't go totally spinning. Wheelnut and Chevy going side by side again here. He might go side by side through cups for the second time.
And Wheelnut picks up a penalty. So in terms of penalties, it is level between these two. So at the moment, whoever finishes ahead on track will be the one who finishes ahead at the end. So M-Shep then, will he get a run heading down into Cobb's corner? He will not be close enough. Daniel defends the inside anyway. There was no real need for that, defending fresh air there. But Wheelnut and M-Shep, I tell you what, Wet Lemons is loving this. He's now 2.3 seconds clear. And M-Shep was a good bit closer there than Wheelnut, and it looks like he's going to get a better exit out of here, and he will indeed, as Camo Babo passes Mick Schumacher during the Maggots and Beckett's complex, and M-Shep is still stuck behind Wheelnut.
He only caught the end of that move there, and I think Mick Schumacher might have just let him through, but another 3-second penalty then for Shepard. This is looking good for Sayers Sports right now in 7th place. In a net 5th place right now, but he will have Camo Babo on the back of him anytime soon, you would imagine. But Shepard and Wheelnut again, like magnets here, can't get away from each other as Baz is pitted, so after shooting up for damage, unless he's going for the tyre change, unless tyres really are starting to drop off.
I don't think they are. I saw M-Shep have quite a bit of understeer, it seemed, through turn 2, but I think he may have actually just been maybe steering out of a slide, just getting the wheel straight so he can keep going in the right direction. And M-Shep then still very close to Wheelnut. He won't be close enough to have any kind of move into Brooklands corner. Is this Brooklands? This is Brooklands, yes, and the next one's Lovefield.
It's Lovefield.
Might as well just use the numbers at this point, to be honest. But Camo Babo then behind Sayers Sports, and Sayers Sports actually gets a pretty decent exit out of Lovefield corner, so I don't think Camo Babo's going to be close enough. Indeed, he will not. But plenty of close racing out here. If one driver makes a mistake, they could lose a lot of positions.
Yeah, definitely. Certainly from 5th onwards, there's definitely a bit of a train, isn't he? Falling back to around about Mick Schumacher in 10th right now. And it's just trying to get that line, isn't it, through Maggots and Beckett's. And if you can perfect it, and the driver ahead of you makes a bit of an error, you can have a chance down the Hanger Straight without, of course, needing DRS. But top 4 look pretty stable right now. I think it is from 5th downwards when it's all going to kick off. We're about to be halfway through this race at the minute, and it's looking very good for Theo Hickman, and he sets the fastest lap as well.
Theo Hickman then, he's obviously found something to improve his driving in wet conditions, and Sayers Sports now is closer to M-Shep, and M-Shep is to Wheelnut. Now I wonder if M-Shep is maybe starting to burn out his tyres. Maybe Wheelnut has found some kind of a groove now that he's got a bit of breathing space. But either way, Sayers Sports is looking pretty decent out there.
He is indeed. Just seeing if what can Camo Babo do as well here. I mean, a realistic finishing position for Camo Babo now, you would have to say, is probably 5th, which, considering where he was at the end of lap 1, would still be a good result, especially as Wet Lemons only managed 4th. So I think at this stage, Camo Babo would take that. But I'm pretty sure it would be the second race in a row, wouldn't it, that wouldn't have either Wet Lemons or Camo Babo on the podium, because of course Wet Lemons had that spin in Austria last week.
Yeah, and I think Camo Babo will probably be thinking, well, if Wet Lemons is lacking pace, then he really should have been ahead of him at the end of this, so it could be quite bittersweet in a way. But Camo Babo really needs to get all the points he possibly can, and that's not going to help. Now at the moment that will not actually cost him anything, but it does mean that he's not going to gain on Sayers Sports unless he passes him and pulls away by 3 seconds. Although M-Shep does have a penalty, so Camo Babo is a net P7. So
yeah. Oh, Sayers Sports gone a bit wide there, and Camo Babo thought about going for it. That Shep's got 9-second penalty now. But Owen again is very late on the brakes. Oh, he nearly hit the back of Camo Babo.
Owen does love a late braking manoeuvre on this game, and it has to be said, he's surprised me quite a few times when his car just appears on the screen. But Camo Babo pretty close to Sayers Sports. He gets a good bit more of the apex than Joe Sayer up in front, but he's not going to be close enough heading into turn 3, and he's not going to get the traction out of here either. So can he make the move? He's making the move now.
Oh, he's trying it there.
which...
Oh, they both touched! He's off!
Did he get hit by Owen?
I don't think so. I was on board with Owen at the time. I don't think there was any sort of touch there. I think he just hit the side pod of Say Sports, and Say Sports nearly lost it, but he saved it. Kamababo lost it completely, and now Kamababo was retired.
Kamababo out of the race. Not sure that was...
Yeah, I don't think that was a wise move, really, because he's
No.
still going to pick up some points. He was still in a... still could have got, 5-6 points maybe, but instead he decides to fully retire. So that is a strange one, I have to say.
Yeah, not quite seeing the sense in that one. The race director seems happy enough, and indeed we have a green flag, so the marshals were pretty swift on that one, as Mayor Quemby picks up another 3-second penalty. So Sayer Sports is looking good for a top 7 finish as things stand, but in fact actually maybe top 6
top
because
5.
of
Top 6.
Sorry, Theo Hickman is doing rather well out in front. We haven't spoken about him much other than when a fastest lap occasionally would pop up on the screen, but he's currently 4 seconds clear of Cena, who, by the way, is also having a very solid race. Chris Johnson's a little bit closer. We have a retirement and a virtual safety car, which won't really do. Oh, we have a full safety car.
Well, and considering these guys have just got penalties, Wet Lemons, Wheelnut, Dave all got penalties, so this actually could play very well for Sayer Sports. He could be looking at a top 4 finish now, perhaps, as we have a full safety car deployment then, and the safety car is just leaving the pit lane now. Hickman is just finishing the first sector, so it's going to take a while to catch up. I can't imagine we're going to see anybody pitting, certainly up front. It might be where the pit stop if you're behind, and that's exactly what Red Bull Kim's doing. And Red Bull Kim, was it Imola? Wasn't it, when he put the dry tyres on, and we all laughed? And then it turned out to be the absolute correct decision under the safety car, but I'll be surprised if he does something similar here. But Red Bull Kim has surprised me before, but no, he stays on the Inter tyres as he comes out of the pit lane then. So a full safety car. Will anybody come into the pits? I doubt it.
I think I would pit if I was Baza or Parsa, but other than that, or just if you're at the back in general, I would, because you've got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
But it's come out on lap 9, so we're going to get 2 laps of racing at most.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be very, very little, and especially if you have penalties and you need to try and pull away from the pack, you might not be able to pull away too much. It's absolutely disastrous, especially for M. Shep, who's got that 9-second penalty. He will not be a fan of this at all. And predictably then, nobody coming into the pit lane. Chris Johnson and Cena taking some very strange lines there for the final chicane, but not coming into the pit lane. The drivers are almost stopping as they come round. There must be a heavy delta at that particular corner. They're all having to slam on the brakes. As Mick Schumacher's come in.
Mick Schumacher pits from 9th and picks up a 5-second penalty, which he would not have got if he stayed out. So Mick Schumacher then has basically thrown away any chance of points. So not the wisest move from the Red Bull driver. I don't know why you'd be pushing going into the pits when you're under safety car, but anyway, the damage has been done, and we have Angel versus Death. Then will he get past the Red Bull driver? He will, quite comfortably. Or will he? Yeah. So Angel versus Death then is now up into P12. Now Baza stays out. If the safety car comes in this lap, I suppose it makes sense. But I don't think the safety car will come in this lap, given how spread out everybody is.
Yeah.
So, although Baza has no penalty, so he will jump up a few places here. And actually, Mr. John is going to jump up a few places, you would imagine. I think there will be more than a 3-second gap between himself and Wet Lemons by the end of this race. But he should certainly jump ahead of Mayor Quemby and M. Shep, who I believe have 6 and 9 seconds of penalties, respectively.
Just looking to see if Cena has ever won a TGP2 race, and I don't think he has.
Nothing springs to mind, but I'd almost kind of be surprised if he hasn't. Because
I think he's come close quite a few times, but his good friend Parser has won one, but Cena has never, certainly that I can see on the graphic here, the list of all the winners in TGP2. There's Parser's won 2 races, in fact. I don't think Cena has actually ever won a TGP2 race. Of course, that could be about to change. He has had 1 pole, Cena, but yeah, he's never won a race.
That pole, of course, coming at the Red Bull Ring just last week. So
Oh
Cena,
yeah, of course,
then,
yeah.
a driver in form, could well have won that race, but he had an unfortunate technical gremlin on on the straight between turns 3 and 4, which kind of has 2 little kinks in it. It's a bit strange how turn 2 at the Red Bull Ring counts as a corner, but the 2 kinks in between 3 and 4 don't. But anyway, Cena finds himself in P2, and he finds himself as Wet Lemons and Chris Johnson have swapped places.
Yeah, well, if that was Mercedes, they'd be complaining. But yeah, I think it was just a little bit of just overtaking going on there, but nothing terrible. Of course, if they were to collide, then you'd give them both a penalty, which is also obviously incredibly annoying when that happens. Hopefully that doesn't happen at all on this restart.
Well,
and just as I was saying that, there's the curse there. The commentators have Blair Grills and Mr. John collided, and they've both been given a penalty for it. What a surprise! I'm sure that'll get removed from the pair of them.
Unless one is deemed at fault. I think we're now looking into those incidents, and some of those penalties now do actually stand. So it is possible that only one of their penalties will get removed, but we didn't see it, so we don't know which one it'll be. So if anything, that's more annoying. But we'll have to see what happens, and this will surely be the
well, surely the safety car's going to come in this lap, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just a bit confused as to how Red Bull Kim got a penalty. I think he got a penalty under the safety car at Woodcut Corner.
Kaya, by the way, said that Stereo gave him damage to his rear wing, which is what I think caused his incident a few laps ago, which triggered this safety car. But now the safety car is coming in, and we are going to have 2 laps to the flag then. Can Hickman maintain this dominance he's shown in the wet conditions, which is not something he's done before? He has to try and nail this restart. Remember when Jacko spun at the safety car restart?
Yeah, actually, that's the point worth bringing up. Hopefully their tyres are up to temperature.
Yes,
because
that's a very good point.
It can catch people out at the restart, especially when we've been going at really low speeds, and these are the lowest speeds we've ever had, and hopefully the camera angle will change to something a bit more useful, as I think Theo now drops the hammer full throttle in his Williams, and he does go a bit wide through the chicane. Does he have the traction out of club corner? It's important not to overdo it here because the car can snap on the cold tyres. Speaking of the car snapping, Chris Johnson nearly loses it, and Wet Lemons, where Quimby is out, and Wet Lemons tries to go around the outside of turn 1, but it was not going to work there, and we see a move from Wheelnut down the inside of Wet Lemons. They make contact. I think Wet Lemons should be entitled to the position. He has the inside line, and he has not got a lot of traction, though. Wheelnut will have a run down this straight. I don't think, will he have enough?
Chris Johnson's recovered from that spin. He's going to go for second place on Cena now as well. Cena, we thought it might be able to challenge Hickman, but instead Chris Johnson gets ahead into second place, and Wet Lemons maintains 4th for now.
Chris Johnson then looks like he's got some decent grip in his low temperature tyres. They'll still be building up the temperature in their Pirellis, as Theo Hickman now has a 1.3 second lead, so all he needs to do is just keep it neat and tidy until the end. And Cena then dropping to P3. Wet Lemons under pressure from Wheelnut in P5. And Wheelnut looking like he has more pace, looking like he has more grip out of his tyres, although maybe not so much through there. He goes a bit wide and compromises the next set of corners. Who gets the better exit? It is indeed, well, it's fairly even actually, but Wheelnut has the slipstream, but he does not have enough momentum to pass. And Bazza moves himself up into P12, which will become quite a higher position due to the penalties in front of him. Parsa is running in P10 with no penalties, so he'll jump up a few places at the end as well. As we begin the final lap, Indecisive Mackie picks up a penalty. Bit of a kick of oversteer there for Wheelnut, and that actually gives M-Shep a run into turn 1. He's not going to get past into turn 1. But can he make a move into turn 3? It's worth pointing out M-Shep does have a lot of penalties. So he just needs to get to the end of this race as quickly as he can.
But yeah, it's just getting to the end for Shepherd. As you say, 9 seconds with the penalty. Wet Lemons is closing in on Cena. Yeah, Cena might not even get a podium. If Wet Lemons can get ahead and find 3 seconds, it's a tall order on the final lap of the race. And actually, Cena's had a great exit from that corner there, and will keep third position for the time being then. So it looks as though Wet Lemons is set for the 4th place. It looks like Hickman's going to win. Chris Johnson managed to recover after that wobbly restart to take 2nd place. And Owen, once again, he was running in a great position towards the end of France, wasn't he, last week, and he hit the wall. And he's hit the wall again with just a couple of laps to go.
Mick Schumacher picking up a penalty exactly when he did not need to do so. That's great news for Bassett, although he already did have penalties prior to that anyway, so I think that is Mick Schumacher out of the points. So Theo Hickman then out in front, having it his own way. Will Wet Lemons have enough momentum? He's got a great exit out of Maggots and Beckett's, and Wet Lemons has the run on Cena, but is it enough to pass the AlphaTauri driver? I don't think it will be. Of course, Cena has no penalties, Wet Lemons does. So Cena then will hold on to the podium, but on the top step of said podium is a certain Williams driver who last season had an absolute disaster. Well, he's turned it around this season, and Theo Hickman wins in Silverstone. Chris Johnson, fastest lap on the final lap, finishes in P2. A brilliant drive from the Aston Martin driver. Cena completes the podium. Sayer Sports is 4th for Haas. Wet Lemons is P5. Normally he'd be disappointed with that, especially in wet conditions, but given the positioning of his main title rival Camo Babo, I think he will take that. Parsa gets driver of the day. I'll be honest, I didn't see a whole lot of him in the race, but yeah, so Theo Hickman then representing Earth on the top step of the podium. Williams will be absolutely delighted. They've drawn a random mechanic to stand up on the podium, and he looks delighted.
Yeah, I think Josiah gained 4 places there at the end because of the penalties for Wet Lemons and Wheelnuts and Shepherd's as well. Shep dropped down to 11th, but Wheelnuts actually, when you were watching Hickman cross the line, Wheelnut sent it at the final chicane on Wet Lemons, and he did make slight contact, and Wet Lemons would be glad that it didn't result in a spin, and he just got away with it. Comes home in 5th place, and I think, as you say, considering, I mean, did Cameron Babo actually get points in the end? No, he did not. He's classified stone cold last in that race.
And I think if Mr. John was not at fault for that safety car penalty, he will jump up to P7.
Good result.
Yeah, which would mean that he went from 19th to 7th and not Paris's 17th to 7th. So maybe Codemasters would have decided differently on their outcome of driver of the day. But in the end, it wasn't to be. Angel versus Death in the top 10.
So it's 180 for Wet Lemons then on championship points. 38 points ahead then of Cameron Babo. Of course, did not complete the race. 10 points for Wet Lemons, coming home in 5th place.
So,
and up next, of course, we have Hungary, which is a track that is difficult to overtake. So qualifying will be vital.
And just confirmation, Cena has never won in TGP2, and who knows, maybe that'll change. He's been on some great form recently, and if he can string a good quali lap around here, which we know how important it is to do, he'll find himself in a pretty good position. Now, Hungary is normally a race of attrition. The curbs are very aggressive around this circuit, so we should be in for a pretty good one.
It does seem a bit mad, doesn't it, that he's never won a race. Cena, in TGP, but surely it's going to come eventually.
And pole sitter in the previous season was officially Parsa. So, given that Parsa didn't actually set a lap in Silverstone, I think that will be objective number one. But hopefully a change in fortune for the Ferrari driver, despite netting a guaranteed top 8 anyway, depending on the results of Mr. John's penalty. But yeah, just a few seconds to go before we see what it will be like at the Hungaroring.
Not often a place where we tend to get wet weather in the Hungaroring, is it? You would expect it to be dry.
I think the drivers are really hoping it'll be dry as well, because they did just have a wet quali and a wet race. Well, I suppose it depends on who you are. I suppose Theo maybe he likes the wet conditions now. Maybe he's found some kind of setting that enables him to do a lot better.
Drivers will be currently selecting the tyres, which of course is nothing that they really need to do these days on the game. Don't know why it's still there, but that's what they're currently doing. And as we wait for the countdown, another 5 seconds to go, and we will be ready to get going.
Nervous moments then for the drivers as we find out what kind of conditions we have, and the conditions we have are very sunny. So quite the contrast.
Yeah, absolutely. At least for now it's sunny anyway. We'll see what it's like for the race. Hopefully we'll get that information in a moment then. So 18 minutes of qualifying. Who's going to be the first driver to come out on track and attempt to set a lap time? I think it's a McLaren. There's always tends to be the McLaren. I think it's Kaya, isn't it, usually, who likes to get an early feel for the circuit. And it is indeed Kaya. And his helmet looks a bit like the Moldovan flag. Is that me? It's just, or Romania even.
Romania or Chad. But
well, maybe Kaya is a Chad. Maybe that is the reason behind that.
Maybe. But
that crash helmet.
Yeah, it's a very vintage looking helmet design.
Well, listen to this. There is a slim chance of rain towards the end of this race here in Hungary, so that could throw everything up in the air. Only a slim chance, though, we're told, but still a chance nonetheless.
So let's see how that materialises. And let's see, we've got plenty of drivers on their outlaps, some still trickling out of the pits. It's quite a short track around here, and it is quite difficult to nail your lap, so I think it is important to get out there early, because you can just about squeeze in a fourth run. And one of the places we do see a lot of invalidations is turn 4, so you know a lot of the invalidations take place at a point when the tyres are still in good nick, so you can cruise back to the pits. But yeah, this is one of those tracks where I like to get out quite early, because you can get that fourth run in.
But is it worth doing all the runs noted? And you know, if you might be certain scenarios in the race where you might pit twice and put soft tyres back on, and you might have to use sets of soft tyres that have already been used.
I guess it depends on your position. If you're going for pole, then I would go for the 4 runs.
Well, we've got a bit of traffic forming up towards the end of the lap, which isn't a great surprise, of course. The two AlphaTauris nearly run into each other, and somebody backing up in the very, very final corner. Parsa having to almost come to a complete stop before they start the lap. And Owen is out. Owen is out at it is at turn 4, isn't it? That he's gone off there. Yes, it is.
And Cena has abandoned his lap because he started too close to his teammate. Not quite sure why he decided to go with his teammate at the final corner.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of traffic, and it was all sorts of building up, so... But, yeah, I mean, possibly he could have backed off a little bit more, but Owen... Well, I mean, at least it stands at 18 cars now, because Owen is very much out of the session. And I noticed the Hickmans actually came back into the pit lane. He was out on track, wasn't he, a moment ago? I'm sure he was. But now he's back in the pit lane then. So we'll see who's the first to get a lap in on the board. It's just about trying not to make an error, just get an early banker lap in, and it's Kyle on that 118.917. And that's immediately beaten by Wetlands on the mediums on a 117.3.
Looked like Wet Lemons didn't take quite as much speed through the final corner as he perhaps could have. Didn't use all of the road. So in addition to the compound of tyres that he's using, it does look like a Wet Lemons has quite a lot left in the tank. So we have a Red Bull about to cross the line. I believe that will be Mick Schumacher, who slots himself into P2. We have a Mercedes crossing the line, which of course has to be Wheelnut because Owen is out. And it is provisional pole for Daniel Wheelnut, who is immediately displaced by last season's pole sitter, officially Parsa.
Well, Parsa has been quite a few times this season when you would expect him to start high up on the grid, but he's had incidents. Well, he's got a lap in straight away at the moment, and he'll be hoping to be competitive in the race as well. As I think Angel Versus Death has spun, as you know, I think it was Kaya at turn 5, of course. There's that dreaded curb on the turn 5, and if you hit that curb, you will. It is pretty much guaranteed that you will go for a spin. I think that's what Kaya done.
Camel Babo then around the final corner, not quite hitting the apex, taking kind of middle of the road line, but it's good enough for provisional pole by 0.4 of a second. So it's working for him, whatever he's doing so far. Angel Versus Death slots into P9 as someone else has crossed the line. I believe it was an Alfa Romeo Baza who is now in 3rd place provisionally, but we still have a lot of time left to go in this session.
We do indeed, as the drivers will be coming back in now then after the first runs, the majority of them. Some may decide to carry on and push for a second go. I think Camo Babo, no, it's not Camo Babo, as he's just finished his lap.
Hickman's on a lap.
The majority of the drivers will be coming in. He is indeed on a lap.
On mediums.
And he's still on the medium tyres, Hickman, yeah, so 27.4 first sector, very wide into turn 4 there. That will have lost him some time. See what it is, so it's 27.4 first sector. What was Cameron Babo's? 27.0.
Oh, what's this McLaren doing?
Danger versus Death, but he did manage to get out the way. Of course, this isn't going to be totally comparable to Cameron Babo's lap time, though, of course, because Hickman is on the mediums. But we'll watch the rest of the lap as he goes through turn 11. Oh, it's very close. It's just a little bit more to the left there, and that would have probably been an invalidation, but not there that time. Oh, but that one is. That one is at turn 12. Again, just on the outside, all 4 wheels off the track, and quite rightly, an invalidation.
I was just about to say that should absolutely be legal, but Codemasters have decided in their autocratic views to deem that illegal, even though it should be the curb. But thankfully, real life is more lenient. So who else have we got on laps? We've M Shep rounding the final corner in the Alpha Tauri. Where can he find himself? Currently in P19 up to P9. So I think he'll be quite happy with that one.
So Travis come back out then, with Porsche come back out for another run. Cena as well. Wet Lemons, Wheelnut, all beginning to come back out. Wet Lemons on the soft tyres this time as well.
Blair Grills, I think, is starting a lap. He's just heading round turn number 1. Currently in 15th with no time set. So Blair Grills and Theo Hickman are the 2 big names at the back who have yet to set a lap. And of course, Owen with that crash at turn 4, which Blair Grills is heading through now. No such misfortune for the Aston Martin driver. It's apparently a purple sector 1, but we know what that graphic can be like. So how does he negotiate the chicane?
Definitely not a purple sector 1 because Cam Webber was 2/10 quicker, but still a decent one though.
He should be comfortably within the top 10 if this lap goes to plan. And again, ignore the track map. I have to say I quite like the track map around the Hungaroring. It's a small track, so you can see a good bit more because it's quite big. But anyway, enough of me rambling. Blair Grills round the final corner then in the Aston Martin. Where can the Aston Martin driver find himself? It is P4. So
big fan of Blair Grills' line through the final corner. Getting very close up to the barrier. As close as you want, really. You have to sort of play there with that barrier. Because if you tap it, you will pretty much guaranteed to destroy your car. Which is what Kaya's done at the exit of the chicane. I think he dropped it probably on the... well, almost certainly would have dropped it on the exit of the chicane and then straight into the wall on the second bit of the curb. And he is out of the session. But he is ahead of his teammate right now for the time being.
Yeah, so not too bad then from Kai. I think he would be fairly pleased with a P12 start. Wet Lemons then
That's
around the final corner, wide on entry and still wide on the exit, but how is his lap time? It is good enough for P2 at the moment.
10th off Kamababa, then as big championship rival, 38 points now the gap, don't forget. So Kamababa really needs to win this race, and I believe, I'm not sure when, but I have been told that, and Baz has managed to split the final corner, so that's bad for him considering it's going to have a negative impact on the start of his next lap now
Next
as well.
ruined.
Yeah, it's totally ruined. But yeah, apparently Kamababa will be missing a week at some point. I think it's either next week or the week after. No, sorry, Wet Lemons will miss a week. My apologies. Wet Lemons will miss a week in a couple of weeks' time. So it will even it out a little bit because Kamababa obviously missed a week last week. But still, even with the gap of 38 points, you know, it would be nice, you would think, if you had Kamababa to at least get a good result this time here in Hungary and finish ahead of Wet Lemons.
Parsa then, last season's pole sitter through turn 5, gets maybe a bit too close for comfort to that dreaded curb on the inside. Through the chicane there, maybe a bit tentative in the opening part of it. Through this middle sector, he invalidates his lap. I didn't see anything wrong with it, but anyway.
Kamababa has come round the exit here, the final corner. I think he might be about to improve his lap time, you know. He does indeed. And his entry to turn 13 was something like I've never seen before. He took so much speed into turn 13. I don't think I've ever seen a driver take 13 the way Kamababa just did around this track. And it's obviously what helped because he's only driving into the 115s.
Wheel nut then around the penultimate corner. Where can the Mercedes driver find himself? He crosses the line, and it's an improvement in time by over a quarter of a second, but he remains in P7. So I suppose he set a decent banker lap. P7's a decent enough starting position, so now he can afford to push for his final runs. As we see M. Shep going through the chicane.
Yeah, we've got Mr. John and Indecisive coming around the final corner now. He's going to set a lap, and Indecisive goes into 11th place then. So, how long we've got left in the session? Not sure, because I've only got a flag out right now, but Bazet has gone purple sector 1 apparently. Again, don't know if that's true or not, but it looks like he's on a decent lap still. Nevertheless, bit of a slide through the chicane there, but nothing too bad, I suppose, compared to how bad it could have been. He's got Hickman just ahead of him. I wonder if that might be causing a little bit of an issue for him as he goes through this horrible middle sector of the track. And you can't really get much of a toe around here, as we'll see if he improves at all towards the end of the lap into turn 13. He's been quite close to Hickman for the entire lap, but we'll see if it's an improvement nonetheless. He's in 5th right now, so it's a decent quality, certainly better than the one he had in Silverstone. Around the final corner, open the DRS, and he crosses the line, and he does improve by a 10th, but doesn't improve his position.
Could be crucial come the end of the session if he is ahead of someone by less than 10th. But yeah, Baza then P5. I think he'd be happy with P5 at the end of the session, but of course we do still have nearly 6 minutes to go. So M-Shep did go up to 7th in the end. He's finding a good deal of pace out there. His pace is definitely improving. He just needs to iron out the track limit violations in the races, because they've really been his downfall for quite a while now. But the pace is getting better, which is a good thing to see. So once he can sort out the pace and then just become more and more consistent, and soon we could see M-Shep a good bit closer to the front.
So we've got Wet Lemons on a lap then. Wet Lemons on a lap on fresh tyres with 5 minutes to go in the session. And he has 4 thousandths up in the first sector, and that's a lovely way to go for turn 4. They was going to extend it, but he didn't. And he's got quite a bit to go, though, to catch up to Kamababa on that 15.9.
He does indeed, but he's got 2 sectors left to go through this second sector, which, to be honest, I think Formula 1 has kind of outgrown. The cars are a bit too big and a bit too quick. It's not as enjoyable. It was better with the narrow cars but just about keeps it within the white lines. And Wet Lemons then through turn 12 he comes. 2 more corners to negotiate, and they're 2 very frustrating corners, and he doesn't find the apex of turn 13. Through the final corner, he still doesn't find any kind of apex, but he will be able to carry speed, hopefully, but let's see. He does lose time. That last sector didn't look great, and indeed it wasn't.
Yeah, that lap fell away from there, didn't it? But we'll see what his teammate can do past, and now he's about to hit the second sector, and he's half a second up. 53.9 at the middle sector point. This is looking good for Parsa. Could he possibly get ahead of his teammate right now, I wonder?
Parsa then with just 1 more corner to go. Can he find a bit more turn in than his teammate? Indeed he can. And he's on the curb, on the exit. Parsa across the line. It's P2. He's very close to pole, but doesn't quite get it. So Parsa then, at the moment, doesn't look like he's going to be able to recreate the pole position result he had from last season. He hasn't got enough time, I don't think, to go back into the pits either.
Camo Babo's final sector is insane compared to the rest of the field. Barca was quicker in sector 1 and sector 2 on that lap to Camo Babo's quickest lap. But Camo Babo is 21.7 final sector, and the other guys are all just in the 22-second range. So he is absolutely flying in that final sector, and it's helping him a huge amount, and that's what's keeping him on pole position.
He must have a fair deal of mechanical grip, because it's a very traction-oriented sector, so he must have a lot of turn-in, but then also a lot of traction to go with it, because obviously he's not quite as quick in the other 2 sectors where you need a bit more kind of mid-corner, medium to high-speed grip. So we'll see how that benefits him in the race. Of course, you don't really see overtakes in the second sector, so you can kind of afford to be a bit slow. Track position is key around here. Wheelnut is finding time out here. He's currently in P8. He's very, very close to P6. But where can the Mercedes driver find himself? Hopefully he doesn't get a lot of dirty air from the Alpine just ahead of him. I believe that's Indecisive Mackie. And he crosses the line. It's P5 for Wheelnut. Could maybe have done with that Alpine being a little bit more out of the way. Maybe could have got P4.
Yeah, I think you might be right about that one. Oh,
Cena
just going straight off there, turn 4. And, well, maybe he'll have the fuel to go again for one more lap, but we'll see. 1 minute 50 seconds to go in the session. So final runs for everybody now, and Blair Grills has invalidated his lap time. Shepard's also invalidated his, and it looked like he was set for an improvement. Got Hickman down in 9th place, Chris Johnson down in 10th. They'll be looking to improve.
Wheelnut finds himself on a lap, and it's still valid. The Alpine moves out of his way, still behind that Alpine, but is improving his time, so perhaps Indecisive Mackie was on for a pretty decent lap there. Currently finds himself in P15, and actually Wheelnut's lap is very much gone, so he looks like he's going pretty quickly for an in-lap. But Baza has invalidated his current effort. Blair Grills keeps out of the way of those around him, even though they're going into the pits as well.
Well, I'm just watching Camo Babo here because he was a 10th up in the first sector, and maybe he's going to hook up all the sectors this time round. Bit wide through there, and actually lost him a bit of time. He's actually down as he went through turn 11, but this is where he's been excelling, but he's not going to excel because he's track extended, and it is a lap invalidation, and that's probably going to be hit for him for qualifying then, and it'll all be down to the guys behind. Parsa can't set him with the lap time. Wet Lemons, I'm not sure how long's left in the session, but there's not 25 seconds here, so he will be able to start his final lap in time. Camo Babo might be able to go again if he's got the fuel and the tyres for it.
I genuinely did not see the wheels of Camo Babo go beyond that white line.
No, they did. I was on board with them, and definitely all four did. It was legitimate.
Anyway, Cena is
in the second sector. See, look, that's how you do it. Just straddle along the middle of the curve like
looked
that.
The same, but Cena then round the final corner comes the AlphaTauri driver. Can he find himself in the top 3? I don't think he has quite enough pace for P1, but Cena then across the line, and it is P3. What can Wet Lemons do?
26.8 ahead then in the first sector, so that's quicker than what Kamababo has managed. Kamababo was in the 27s at the start of the lap. Is Kamababo pushing again for another lap? I'm just trying to see. No, he's definitely not. So it's probably all going to come down then to Wet Lemons at this stage, and we'll see what the second sector is like. But he's going to have to try and have a worldie of a final sector if he wants to put it on pole.
Theo Hickman.
And he's invalidated.
Oh, Theo Hickman's P7. I was kind of expecting more of a lap from the Williams driver, it has to be said. Chris Johnson is on an invalid lap. Baza is not. So Baza then across the line doesn't improve.
Backed off, yeah.
And Wet Lemons has invalidated the lap. Well, that was a bit of an anticlimax at the end of the session there. That was, yeah, that wasn't.
We didn't see many improvements towards the end, but it is very close for pole. And as I mentioned, Parser was quicker sector 1, quicker sector 2, but it's the sector 3 time for Kamababo, which has helped him set pole position here. And his championship rival, Wet Lemons, 38 points ahead, is down in 4th.
So we could be in for a pretty spicy race. Watch out for Mayor Quenby at the back of the grid. Speaking of the grid, let's just do a quick run through it. So we have Kamababo on pole, which is exactly what he needs to recover his championship momentum. Parsa is P2, so close to pole position, which of course he had last season. Cena is 3rd for AlphaTauri and continuing his impressive run of form. Wet Lemons in P4, so not too bad for him. Wheelnut is in 5th with Baza just behind in 6th. Then we have Theo, a disappointing 7th. Blair Grills is 8th, followed by M. Shep in P9. Chris Johnson in his usual kind of place on the grid. And that rounds out your top 10 with Mick Schumacher in P11 with a fresh set of tyres. So I think, I think Owen is definitely the driver to watch here in this race. And will we get rain?
Yeah, will we? Remember, if it does come, it's probably likely to come towards the end. So I imagine if we get some safety cars as well, that would help in terms of course, extending the length of the race. And it could make late rain a little more likely. It would be quite dramatic, wouldn't it, if it was to start falling with a couple of laps to go and drivers trying to get to the finish line on dry tyres. So we could be set for a classic here.
As we get ready to go here at the Hungaroring. I don't know why we can't look at the grid. I don't know why we always look at the pit lane. But anyway, the lights appear on the gantry. And we are away at the Hungaroring. It looks like a pretty decent start from Parsa in P2, who immediately challenges Kamababo for the lead. Now, who breaks later between the two of them? It looks like it's going to be Parsa. Parsa gets the apex. Gets a bit of a run through the first corner. They're still side by side as they head down into turn 2. Who's going to break later? It looks like it's going to be Parsa. And around the outside goes the Ferrari. Kamababo tries to go a little bit wide and run him out of road, but Parsa has the lead. Brilliant move from the Ferrari driver who leads this race. They're still going side by side into turn 4. And Kamababo around the outside of turn 4. He risked it all there. Virtual safety car. We have an incident.
Well, Cena got past Wet Lemons and did a virtual safety car there, and I think they're arguing about who's ahead. Cena just got ahead. I think it was just as it was deployed, and Cena is in 3rd place now. Wet Lemons not happy about that. Cena sort of charged through, and Wet Lemons actually went off the track. So Wet Lemons down to 4th, but he is going to want to get back into 3rd immediately. Look at him, he's right on the back of Cena's car. He's nearly losing it. He wants to get straight back past as soon as this race restarts. Look at him. He's right alongside him.
So clearly a bit of disagreeing going on. He's going to get a penalty if he's not careful. It looks like someone's going to end up with some kind of penalty if they can't decide who was ahead of who. And
this is incredible.
Then, he's retaining P3, or is he? This is an unusual one. It's look
how close they all are. They're all back on the way.
It's a great start.
Cena with a huge sudden turn to the right, and there's a crash. Wheelnut's being hit on a straight. Big accident with Hickman. Big crash. It was all sorts of guaranteed to happen, wasn't it? Hickman's out as well. The cars were all too close together during that restart because of whatever happened between Cena and Wet Lemons, and it's caused chaos for 2 innocent drivers behind.
So we have Wheelnut then out of the race on the pit straight after a chaotic restart. Theo is out of the race as well. So it's Theo Hickman and Wheelnut out of this race in very peculiar circumstances. The marshals have already cleared up the cars, so great work by them. But Camo Babo leads this race then ahead of Wet Lemon. Wet Lemons is now up into P2 after that incident. Stereogram has left.
I'm looking forward to seeing other people's on boards of that, because it was incredible, really, wasn't it? We were all right together, and then they all dropped and went for it, floored it as soon as they could. And Steiner, I think he suddenly cut to the right, didn't he? And Wet Lemons had to defend, and then something similar must have happened further behind, because Wheelnut was directly the car behind, and then Hickman got involved in a crash. Hickman was on the grass, and then Hickman tried to rejoin the track, collided with the back of Wheelnut's car, and it sent them both into a massive spin. So absolute chaos, and we're only on lap 3 of this race.
Yeah, and unfortunately the angle I got wasn't that great. The main broadcast camera kept giving me onboards, which was pretty annoying, I've got to say. I caught the very end of it, just looked behind and saw a Mercedes which had no wheel taking out the brake marker boards. So yeah,
well,
quite the crash.
I have a feeling there's going to be some investigations going into it, so I'm sure we'll get some other angles of that. I got a decent angle as well, which I suppose may well be needed for evidence, because that is definitely going to get talked about after this race, guaranteed. Right from the very moment that the radio safety car came out, when Cena just got ahead of Wet Lemons and he were arguing over the position. Never quite seen anything like that before. Constant through an entire safety car period, trying to decide who was ahead of who.
Yeah, I think you may need to hit your share button at the end of this race and save the footage, because I'll be honest, the footage I managed to get wasn't great, because Codemasters weren't really giving me the angles I needed. But we have a yellow flag, then we have a Red Bull off the track. It is Mick Schumacher. Now, will that cause any kind of incident? Does he have any damage? I don't think he does. I think it was just a spin, as Blair Grills is lining up a move on Baza up the inside at turn 1. He brakes a bit too late, doesn't get a great exit, but he still is ahead of the Alfa Romeo driver. Not anymore. They're side by side heading into turn 2. They're the kind of camera angles that we want. And Baza all over the curb, and they've made contact.
He tried to hang it in there, didn't he? And it nearly worked, but Baza has been tapped into a spin. The gap closed, and he is down to 11th place. Good battle, though, up until that moment.
Yeah, it's one of those kind of corners where, like, you know, at some point the driver on the outside has to turn in if they're ahead. Would you say he turned in too aggressively?
I wasn't watching it really from an onboard position of either the drivers. It just looked like the kind of standard battle that can happen through there. So I wouldn't want to put blame fully on either driver at the moment, to be honest. But that might be another one that's going to get investigated.
And just looking at the position changes we've had in this race, Merrick Quenby has gained 12 places after all of those incidents. We have an AlphaTauri in the pit lane. I believe that's M-Shep.
Look how close Wet Lemons is here to Camo Babo. He's managed to close right in from that drama early on, and it's the top 2 in the championship. Remember, as you said, Wet Lemons is going to be missing a week sometime soon. And Parsons and Cena side by side, and Cena's gone round. Cena spun round, only caught the end of that, but that's going to be Cena dropping a load of positions now as well.
Parsa and Cena,
good friends, aren't they?
Yeah, but on the track, it's maybe not on the track, it seems, because they've had an incident. Now, the curbs in Hungary are quite lethal, so it is possible it was just due to the curb, as Cena nearly loses it on the exit of turn 5. His tyres will be quite hot after that spin, as M-Shep picks up the first penalty of the race, but he is down in 16th. Cena then under pressure from Indecisive Mackie and Mr. John behind. In fact, Mr. John is a good bit quicker through this set of corners than Indecisive Mackie. Will he be able to get a move? He goes a good bit wide through that corner, turn 11, as Indecisive Mackie tries to go around the outside of Cena. Cena's having none of it. I think Cena is still recovering from the spin that he had with those tyres. And Merrick Quenby then lining up Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson has no toe ahead of him, and Chris Johnson is defenceless Also, worth pointing out, Mayor Quenby is on the mediums.
He
So
is indeed, yeah.
he's currently running fifth, which would be sixth because Cena has just pitted. Actually, no, Cena was behind. I was used to him being at the front. So yeah, Mayor Quenby is a net P5.
And of course, there is possible rain as well, of course. So if he can stay on those mediums up until the rain comes, once everybody else on softs has made the pit stops, if that scenario was to happen, he could be very, very fortunate indeed. But we are already on lap 6 of this race, and although I say already, we've still got over halfway to go. As Wet Lemons is still right behind Kamababo, but Kamababo, so I've been watching them past couple of laps. Kamababo seems to always get a great exit out the final corner, and he's going through that sector 3 now, where he seems to have so much pace in qualifying, and it is definitely helping him in this race scenario. And he's pitting. Kamababo is actually coming into the pit lane.
Kamababo not taking any chances with any potential safety cars or virtual safety cars, and Parsa also comes into the pits, as does Blair Grills, which moves Mayor Quenby now up into P2. So a safety car or virtual safety car would be very welcome. Or maybe not a virtual safety car, given that he's only at turn 1, but if a safety car does come out, which it might...
It's Mick Schumacher spun at turn 5, hasn't he?
Yeah, just a spin, so the Red Bull does continue. No debris. I think the front wing is still intact on that Red Bull. Indeed, it is. So I thought for a moment there we may have actually... Owen may have got his wish, although I don't think he wants it this early on in the race. I think he'd prefer to have it maybe in about 5 laps' time would be ideal for him. But
so Kamababo then comes out the pit lane. Oh, he had a bit of a wobble through turn 4 there. Had to recover the car. But he's got Indecisive ahead of him, and then Mr. John as well, and they're battling for position, and this won't be easy to get past him. He's going to be stuck behind these two now all the way through this middle sector, through turn 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, look at how much time he's evidently losing. You can obviously tell, and this is obviously fantastic for Wet Lemons. Wet Lemons in the pit lane.
He's 19.6 behind, and Kamababo's teammate Mackie not making life difficult into turn 12, and I think the gap is stable in these corners as Kamababo nearly spins.
I thought Wet Lemons would change to the front wing there, but he's not. Wet Lemons pit stop is over. Where's Kamababo coming down the pit straight? It's going to be so close between them. Wet Lemons can floor the throttle now. Kamababo is coming alongside. They're going to be side by side braking at the exact same time into turn 1. And Wet Lemons tries to keep the lead. Kamababo round the outside, gets a good exit. And is he going to take the lead? He's actually got DRS from Mr. John on the previous lap, and it helps him stay in the net lead. Wow.
So Kamababo then retains the net lead of the race as Wet Lemons gets a bit loose out of turn 3. But Wet Lemons then, he has 1 lap fresher tyres. Not quite sure that's going to give him quite the advantage that he needs, but who knows, it could come crucial at the end of this race, depending on the wear for the Alpines. Wet Lemons got a bit loose in the first part of that chicane.
Yeah.
So they're pretty close as we were, and it did look like Wet Lemons had more pace in the early part on the soft tyres. So that maybe that will be the case here with the medium set of tyres. As Mayor Quenby has a 10-second lead out in front.
That blast of DRS definitely held Kamababo down the straight there.
Oh, we've an Aston Martin.
Is that?
It's Chris Johnson.
Oh,
he's no wing, virtual safety car. Bad timing for Mayor Quenby.
Yeah, he's just into turn 1. And look how close this is going to be. Another very close VSC restarts here with Wet Lemons involved. Indecisive, though, was it's not pitted on the soft tyres. Of course, now takes this moment to pit. Could work very well for him. He might get a full pit stop in here, actually. And Kaya should have probably pitted there as well. Kaya not decided to come in.
What tyre?
He's on the mediums. But still could have been worth it. As Indecisive is not going to lose a huge amount of position here. Chris Johnson obviously having to pit. He's lost his front wing. And Indecisive is in a great position in this race. It's going to be close at Mr. John, is it? No, it's not. Indecisive easily out in 9th place. But the restart, we have to be watching Kamababo and Wet Lemons here for whenever we go green. We have seen quite a few drive-through penalties on VSC restarts this season. Imagine if that was to happen between the top two here. But they're coming up to a lap driver of Mick Schumacher. And I hope this doesn't cause any confusion here. Mick Schumacher's got no front wing as well, but he should ghost. But I don't know if the car's ghost during VSC periods, so thankfully he gets out the way. And we're going to get going shortly. Is Owen... Well, is it worth Owen pitting? No, we're back underway, and it's a drive-through for Indecisive. Oh, that's a shame, after just making that pit stop.
And the drivers now need to get their tyres back under control. They will have dropped a little bit in temperature, and Owen has lost nearly 2 seconds under that virtual safety car. I think he did get a penalty in Mexico for speeding behind the virtual safety car, as Wet Lemons gets a great run on Camababo. Camababo leaves the door open on the inside. He misses the apex to get a good run and have the inside line into turn 2. He gets better traction compared to Wet Lemons, and the Alpine driver will stay ahead of the Ferrari. And speaking from experience, really when you're ahead of someone at this track, the only thing you need is traction out of the final corner and the first one.
Well,
I've caused quite quite the amount of annoyance amongst other drivers.
Oh yeah, me being one of those drivers, but yeah, and Camababo definitely has the traction out the final corner. That's absolutely for certain. He has it. So, well, these two could be close together for the rest of this race, to be quite honest, for the next 8 laps. It's absolutely fantastic stuff. Owen still on those medium tyres, losing more and more time as well, isn't he? Despite the fact that those two are battling, Owen continues to lose time, so maybe it's not working out for him. Maybe he needs the rain to come down right now for his saving grace, perhaps. But we're about to start lap 11, and we'll watch the cars through the final corner here. Camababo, if he gets that good exit and that good traction, and look at that, begins to pull away, but then the DRS will be deployed for Wet Lemons, and he might be able to draw him back in ever so slightly, but it would take a huge late dive and move on the brakes to go for it, and he doesn't. Camababo a bit wide, perhaps, maybe. Oh, Wet Lemons, they're losing the car on the exit, though, and Camababo should be safe for another lap.
See, Camababo, he just has more stability on the corner exit. It's a bit strange because Wet Lemons, we saw him in qualifying, he was kind of missing the apexes in the final sector, and yet he's not getting the traction. Sometimes you can sacrifice a bit of initial turn in order to get a good exit, but it just looks like Wet Lemons doesn't really have a whole lot of that in that final sector. But through the middle sector, despite the dirty air, he's all over the back of the Alpine. So I do find Camababo's performance very relatable.
Well, it's the kind of track where you need to be totally focused through every apex, every single braking point, because it is so easy to make a mistake through this 14 corner circuit. It's very, very difficult. And Owen now has gave up, and he has now decided to come into the pit lane, but he might still have a final decent run through on the soft tyres in the final stage of this race. So here we go again then. 4/10 the gap this time, so he's a bit closer. Could he possibly go for it? He might, you know. Camababo had to defend, and he's going to go around the outside. Wet Lemons. Camababo will try and close him off, and he does manage to do that, but Wet Lemons has a second blast of DRS now, down into the second corner. Could he sweep round the outside? If he's light on the brakes, they nearly touch. Camababo just manages to hold the position again. Oh, he's coming under huge pressure.
And he's running out of deployment. He's got to run. Wet Lemons then, he's, well, unchallenged.
Wow. Well, that was very underwhelming after seeing winning the entrance to just sweep through so easily there into turn 4. Camababo didn't really decide to fight it. Now, I wonder why he didn't decide to fight it. Is it because he knows that he's quite strong in sector 3 and gets a good exit out the final corner, perhaps? But
deployment,
if he's not careful, yeah, Wet Lemons going to pull in ahead, and yeah, 10% deployment for Camababo. Wet Lemons 29%. Ooh, could he maybe stay in there and get DRS on this lap?
Yeah, I mean, Camababo, I mean, whether it was the inside or the outside, there was nothing he was ever going to be able to do. And we have a spin.
It's indecisive, Mr. John. I'm Rebel Kim, sorry.
Turn 2, and still time for a safety car in this race, which Owen would very much be looking forward to. I think Owen maybe 4th at best. But he is reeling in Blair Grills as Camababo gets pretty close to Wet Lemons into turn 1. He does have better traction normally, but of course he is in the dirty air this time, and the Alpine driver is powerless in his attack against Wet Lemons.
And Kaya still hasn't pitted, by the way. He's still been on those tyres since the very start of the race. I've seen it and say Sport are side by side, but I'm kind of slightly wary of cutting away from any of from the guys at the front here, because one little mistake and it could all kick off between these two. Owen, by the way, came out the pit lane in 5th place, so he is going to be flying on those soft tyres to the finish line.
Yeah, I think when I last mentioned him, the gap was about 7 seconds between himself and Blair Grills. It's now 6 seconds, and he does have 5 and a bit laps to go. So Mark Wemby then could be on a charge for P4 from the back of the grid, remember, at the Hungaroring, which is quite the feat. And now I don't know if that purple sector is legitimate when it happens in the race, but Mark Wemby then, he is on the soft tyres, could very well be on for a fastest lap here, picking up an extra point. Camo Babo then is close to Wet Lemons, but not close enough. So Camo Babo then, he still has a bit of pace, as Mark Wemby does indeed set the fastest lap of the race. So now he just needs to set his sights after the Aston Martin of Blair Grills. Camo Babo, he's got his groove back.
Yeah, at the end of this race, the gap is either going to be 31 points or 45, and Camo Babo would quite like it to be 31. Oh, he got close to that same 5 curve there. But can he get this victory? He was so dominant in qualifying. Well, Evans was down in 4th place, remember? And then there was the whole squabble over who was ahead between Cena and Wet Lemons at the VSC restart. There's been times in this race where Wet Lemons has skirted with danger, but now he is in the lead, and it's 6/10 is the gap. There's going to be 3 laps to go in a moment. Can he hold on for another win? It would be a pretty crushing win psychologically, I imagine, in this battle, because Camo Babo has just looked so strong around here.
So Camo Babo then, can he get the exit that he needs? It does look like it's a better exit, and it is indeed for the Alpine driver. We have a crash at the exit of turn 5.
Yeah.
I think it's too late. Oh,
it's
no, it's not.
Car! Oh, lap 15! It's a safety car. And, well, obviously the drivers have all just passed it, haven't they? The drivers have all just gone past it. So they'll have to do a full lap before they catch up to the safety car. And I heard a what from you there, Roy. What's...
It's just really late. Yeah. Like, we may need the race director to speed things up here to get the race underway at the end. But yeah, so that, I think if you're Wet Lemons, that's good, because there's no DRS between now and the end of the race.
Yeah.
So
but I mean, he's gonna have to nail the restarts, isn't he? And we know how strong Camo Babo is in the final corner. Maybe that doesn't apply so much when it's a safety car restart and they're going to be at much reduced speeds, but he will have to try and nail it for this exit. When will the safety car come in? Will it be on lap 17? Will we have one final lap sprint finish?
I don't think the game actually has implemented safety car finishes, unless I'm mistaken. But
yeah, I don't think it'll be a safety car finish, but it might come in next lap. Possibly we might get 2 laps worth.
Which Owen would be quite pleased with if that's the case.
Yeah, of course. Owen on those soft tyres. Blair Grills is pitting. Blair Grills in 4th place is going to come into the pit lane here, and I don't think he's got any penalties or anything. And Owen's coming in. Owen's coming into the pit lane.
Owen has a 13-second gap to Cena behind. Kaya still hasn't pitted.
Well, is Cena going to jump these two?
Yes.
I think he's going to jump Owen.
I think.
Is he going to and Blair Grills? Was that really the right decision there for Owen to pit? James also jumped ahead of him as well.
It's not the right decision for Owen. Blair Grills, you could at least say, well, it was marginal and probably thought he had the gap, but I don't know what Owen's doing, because he was only on those tyres for we pitted on lap 11.
Yeah,
we did just do 2 laps under safety car, so it's not like those tyres are going to be cooked. Yeah,
exactly. He is. Yes, he is now on fresher tyres, but he's already on far fresher tyres than the rest of the field, pretty much, and he would have jumped a position because Blair Grills pissed ahead of him. and instead now he's down in 7th for this restart, and the restart may only be 1 lap. So really interesting decision by Owen there. We're about to find out now, won't we? We'll find out now if the safety car is coming in this lap or if it will be a 1 lap sprint finish. And it is coming in this lap.
Well, race director keen to get the show on the road. Let's go car racing.
Yeah.
Wet Lemons then will be pleased with the short delay.
Yeah, I mean, we've hardly got the field caught up, really. We've only got the top 7, top 8.
Oh, look at Wet Lemons. He's going wide. He wants to get the exit now, does he?
Oh, this is going to be fantastic. And, well, we had an incident created around about this spot early on in the race in the VSC restart. And who's going to try and get the perfect line for the exit here? Wet Lemons is going to wait till the last moment to try and trick him. A Parser might be alongside. Might Parser go for a move? Cena is there as well, but that's a lap car in between them. Is Parser going to try and go for Camababo to make it a 1-2 for Ferrari? He's late on the brakes, Camababo. He taps him. He's going to spin, is he? He's round. Camababo's round.
Camababo is round, and there's damage, and there's Cena also around as well. So it's a Ferrari 1-2 on the road. So did Camababo turn in a bit too much? Owen is now P3 on completely fresh tyres.
I think Blake Grill's got no front wing. I don't know what happened there with those guys, but somehow he's got. I wonder if he actually hit Camababo when Camababo spun.
Parser's a penalty.
Can Owen win this? Owen is going to be in 2nd place. Well, Everton's losing it in the chicane there. And Owen is just going to fly now. He could win this.
He could, but he's going to have to nail every corner, get no penalties. I think he would need a penalty as Camababo retires from the session.
He's out of the chicane.
The chicane. So
he's going to be some points. Fuming.
0 points.
I mean, I have to say, I don't think you can really. I don't think anyone's at fault for that, to be honest. You know, I mean, it was just really good teamwork, I would say, from the Ferrari drivers. If I'm honest, I mean, I'm sad for Camababo, obviously, and it's not great for the championship in terms of the championship battle. But I think the Ferraris managed to do a job on him there, to be honest, and he got caught out.
It was a bit hard to see what was going on because there was a ghosted Alpine that was just kind of in the way, which wasn't ideal. I don't think Owen can win this race. I don't think there's enough time left, but he is on for a P2 finish after starting at the back of the grid. And Mr. John is on for P4 because he has quite a gap to himself and Sarah Sports in P5. Sarah Sports having a great night. Owen then... Yeah, I mean, I think Owen just has to sit behind.
Passing Say Sports. I think Say Sports got damage. I think Say Sports has got damage. Yeah, he's got front wing damage, but you got a 3-second penalty. It's a totally crazy field right now. And Owen hits the back of Parser. He's not making it easy to overtake there. And Parser's got a 5-second penalty. Where did the 5 seconds come from for Parser?
Oh,
that was just a corner cut. We'll have a look in a minute to see what that is. But through the final quarter, now it's going to be another win for Wet Lemons.
Wet Lemons then, he withstood all the pressure in this race. It was quite a chaotic race, but in the end it was the Ferrari of Wet Lemons who prevailed. Wet Lemons wins at the Hungaroring. Mayor Quenby, a brilliant 2nd place. Parsa completes the podium with Mr. John, an excellent P4. Baza is in 5th. Sayre Sports with damage. He does have penalties, so let's see where this will drop him. He's currently in P6. Chris Johnson also has a penalty. Cena across the line is in P8.
Oh, Red Bull Kim and Kyan across the line very closely. Kyan on those fresh soft tyres, of course. And, Kyan actually, Kim has a penalty, so Kyan jumps up into 9th. Into versus Death 10th, Red Bull Kim 11th. But that penalty for Parser was for a collision with Mackie during a safety car. So Mackie was a lap car, wasn't he?
He was.
So I think he'll get that removed. So that was for position at the very end there between Owen and Parser. And Owen got it.
He also got driver of the day, unsurprisingly. I have to say, shout out to Angel versus Death. That's 2 top 10s he's had tonight. And, Wet Lemons then.
That was a fantastic race, wasn't it?
It was indeed, and Wet Lemons extending his lead by quite a bit. It's there's only kind of one horse that's left in this race at this point, but he is missing a week. And there is that there is that race in Austria that he didn't capitalise on. So Camo Babo really
I think it's going to be
needs to be on it.
63 points now. It's going to be 63 points after tonight. And as you say, Wet Lemons is going to be missing a week. I think it's either next week or the week after. Wet Lemons will miss a week, and what a vital week that will be for Camo Babo if he wants to win this championship.
So, just a quick little recap on what we saw there. Wet Lemons winning the race with Mayor Quemby picking up 19 points after starting from P19 after getting fastest lap. And you can see just how much quicker his fastest lap is. It's a second quicker than Wet Lemons' quickest lap. Parsa is in P3. Mr. John, an excellent fourth, P18 to P4. Baza is fifth. Baza just kind of had a fairly quiet one there. He was just kind of there at the end. Sarah Sports in P6. Great night from the Haas driver. Chris Johnson in P7. Despite that spin, you have to wonder where would Chris Johnson have been if he didn't have that spin. Well,
I was just could Owen have maybe won it if he didn't pit, perhaps because he wasn't being closer to the.
I think
in fact, he might have got himself caught up in it, to be honest, possibly. But
yeah, he would have either been caught up in it or. But then again, you have no DRS, and it's hard to tell really, because he still had to clear Parsa.
Yeah, true.
So it is hard to say. So I would say he probably would have finished second either way. But
what an incredible race. Blair Gills as well, probably the big loser as well, wasn't he? I think he must have been the one who hit Camo Babo and sent him into a further spin when Camo Babo was pretty much horizontal on the circuit. Blair Gills must have been the one to tap him because that's how he got the front wing damage. Of course, he was in a great position at the restart as well. Ends up down in 12th. What a fantastic, crazy race. And another fantastic night of TGP2.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to even recall what's happened. It was just from start to finish. I wonder if we'll actually have anyone look into the incident between Wet Lemons and Cena under that original virtual safety car when they were fighting over who was ahead of who. But don't think we're going back to the lobby, so I might as well wrap up. Hopefully next week you will join us at the same time for two more fantastic races.
Netherlands and Spa.
So we're off to the Benelux countries then, or well, two of them anyway. Two very contrasting circuits, one all about your downforce and track position, the other where it's quite wide open and there's a lot of straights and a lot of passing opportunities. So hopefully you will join us next week, and we will see you for some more fantastic action in TGP2. Good night.